Hello and welcome to the Run Testers. My name's Nick and this is our first run review of the Puma ForeverRun Nitro. So the ForeverRun Nitro is a new addition to Puma's lineup of Nitro road running shoes, and it's a well-cushioned stability shoe. It costs £140 in the UK, $150 in the US. It weighs in at 292 grams or 10.3 ounces in my UK size 9, and it's got a drop of 10mm with a stack height of 36mm at the heel and 26 at the forefoot. So it's a pretty high stack shoe that's still quite lightweight, and it's got a lot of elements to it to make it a stable shoe, but it's not a very intrusive, old-fashioned stability shoe. It's got a modern design here that incorporates a lot of stability elements without making it a very heavy, bulky or intrusive shoe on the run. Most of those are in the midsole, as you'd expect, which is a dual density Nitro midsole. You've got a firmer version of the Nitro foam that basically forms the rim within which a softer core sits to create a more bouncy, soft ride feeling whilst giving you a lot of support around the outside that creates that stability. You've also got a substantial heel clip running around the back of the shoe there, a nice wide base, a beveled heel. All those things add up to create a shoe that's going to deliver a lot of stability despite having quite a high stack of what is a fairly soft foam, the Nitro foam, even with this dual density setup. You've got a Puma grip outsole, which as always is a great feature on any Puma shoe, and some little holes that run along the bottom of the shoe that obviously reduce the weight, that show off the softer foam within the firmer frame of foam. Then you've got a mesh upper with lots of power tape elements that create some structure and support on the upper there, along with a fairly substantial amount of support at the heel to go along with that clip, and a little bit of padding on the inside of the heel there as well.
Fit for me was absolutely fine in my UK size 8. It definitely fits a little on the narrow side, which kind of my narrow feet, it was absolutely fine. I actually slipped on the Puma Velocity Nitro 2 and the Magnify Nitro, which I still have, and it definitely, those shoes, well, particularly the Velocity Nitro is definitely a narrow shoe, but I think compared to this shoe, I think you're getting a little bit more space in the midfoot, where I think here narrows in a little bit more, which I say has absolutely been fine for me. But yeah, generally I was fine with the amount of space you got in front of the toes, nothing too kind of uncomfortable there. As I said, a bit more narrow in the midfoot compared to some of the other Puma shoes I've tested. And I'm very happy with the level of padding here and the kind of lockdown I got in general from my run. So yeah, I would go true to size.
The fit was very good for me, true to size in the ForeverRun Nitro. It held me comfortably and securely around the back and midfoot of the shoe, and I had enough room in the toe box. So yeah, all good, true to size. So I've been for a couple of runs in the ForeverRun Nitro, the first of which was a 10-mile Sunday run on a mix of road and trail, and once again the Puma grip really comes into its own on that kind of run at this time of year when the trails are still pretty light. You can go on them in most road shoes, but it just gives you a little bit more security to have the great grip of the Puma grip outsole. So the first half of the run, mooching around some light forest trails and then onto the road to finish, all done at a very relaxed pace. It was the end of my first full week of training in a while, and my legs were quite tired, and the extra support of the shoe was beneficial. I say it's not that noticeable on the run. It feels comfortable and unintrusive. The guidance system on the shoe isn't really noticeable to me as a neutral runner. It didn't feel annoying or anything like that. And the shoe isn't that heavy at all. It feels quite light on the foot. It moves through quite smoothly, and it more or less disappears on the foot running at an easy pace. When I did step up the pace a little bit, it felt a bit big, but not heavy. It's not the bounciest or softest midsole, this dual density Nitro setup, but it is comfortable and it gives you a little bit back when you do push the pace. But it's mostly just fairly unnoticeable in a good way, which is what you want really, because it's a big stack of foam, so you're getting a lot of protection here in terms of the amount of cushioning and this stability guidance system, but it doesn't feel like a big block on your end of your foot. It just feels like it's comfortable, giving you a little bit back, and you can just go out and do your run without worrying about your shoe too much. I did pick up the pace a little bit more on my second run, and again the shoe feels a bit big, but you can do it in the shoe. I think it's going to have a little bit of bounce there, a bit more versatility. That's something I'll test a lot more for our full review, but so far I've enjoyed my first couple of runs in the ForeverRun Nitro. I think it's a good option to have around for those long training weeks where you can pick up your easy runs and your long runs, delivering a supportive and comfortable ride without being a little bit too overbearing.
So my first run in the ForeverRun Nitro was a pretty easy going 9k in it. I've just off the back my first kind of longest run in ages because of injury, so today kind of definitely required going pretty slow, which I think is absolutely fine in this shoe. I did try to pick it up in places to see how it could maybe potentially handle some kind of more up tempo running. What I'd say, it kind of reminded me a couple of things here. The first thing is that it reminds me a little bit of how I kind of viewed the kind of Saucony Dolphin Shift 3 and where that shoe kind of sits in Saucony's range, where it's a stability shoe, but it's a stability shoe that kind of gives you the elements of the kind of quicker Saucony shoes and more tempo shoes, but also, you know, those guidance and the kind of supportive elements to kind of rein you in a little bit. Now for me, it didn't quite work. It felt a little bit heavy going. It really kind of, I think stability elements really worked against it in that Saucony shoe. Well, I think with the Puma, particularly in this kind of first run, as I said, I was going pretty easy in it. I think it's a bit better balance in terms of delivering that support, but also giving you a ride that, you know, feels pretty nice in general, felt pretty smooth, felt relatively responsive. I think it runs lighter than it looks as well, which I think is always a positive. Reminded me a little bit about running in the Velocity Nitro 2. I mean, you've got that Nitro foam, you've got kind of a firmer element to it as well to kind of offer that kind of bit more protection and support there, but I didn't feel like it was overly firm. Then you've kind of got those kind of side rails and the kind of run guide system in general, which is delivering that stability from different areas. And I think I felt the kind of sidewalls a little bit more, but it was in no way overbearing in terms of guiding my foot in the, you know, in the right position, keep it kind of locked in the right position. And yeah, it felt relatively smooth in terms of that ride. It didn't feel heavy going. I felt kind of relatively fine picking the tempo up a little bit in this shoe. And yeah, it didn't feel, you know, it is a stability shoe, but I think there's a potential here of a shoe that can feel up tempo, has a little bit of versatility in it as well, which I think, you know, yeah, as I said, it reminds me a little bit of the Puma Velocity Nitro in terms of that ride, in terms of that feel, but then you've got that extra kind of protection there as well, which I think is going to hold up well in terms of running a little bit longer in it. Outsole wise, pretty satisfied with what I can see here on the ForeverRun Nitro. I think in general Puma have been making very good outsoles on their shoes, and I don't think it's any different with the ForeverRun Nitro. You do have a little bit more of exposed foam here, so you know there's obviously going to be elements here you're going to lose a little bit of durability compared to some other shoes, but I think in terms of that grip and that traction, I mean, I was on dry pavements, there was it's been raining, but it wasn't raining, so you know I went through puddles and I didn't have any issues from that point of view. I think it cornered really nicely, which I think you get on kind of Puma shoes in general anyway. So there's a good level of rubber here. I think there is some exposed elements here as well, but the grip felt pretty good for me overall in that kind of first run. So yeah, overall feels surprisingly solid for a stability shoe that I think potentially can offer something that's a little bit versatile in terms of the kind of runs you can use it for. As I said, I don't think the stability elements feel overbearing at all. At least it didn't for me in that kind of first run in it. Obviously, you want to run, try to see how it can handle a little bit kind of at the kind of quicker paces and also going a little bit longer as well. But yeah, so far seems pretty solid overall, and I think it's going to probably sit well with the other kind of stability shoes. I think it fits in with as well overall. So initial verdict on the Puma ForeverRun Nitro is that so far so good. I think I'm not a person that necessarily needs to run a stability shoe. It's not a shoe that I would have generally in my rotation, but I think in terms of this shoe and where it sits, I mean, it's definitely more of a gel Cayano stability shoe. I think, again, something like the Saucony Dolphin Shift 3, less so moderate stability shoes like the Saucony Tempest and the New Balance Fresh Foam 860 V13. Now, in terms of comparing it to those other kind of stability shoes, I feel it kind of sits with. I think it looks like it's going to kind of deliver what I think it wants to deliver. Ultimately, something that's going to feel comfortable, is going to deliver that support, but also give you a ride that I think is going to make it relatively kind of enjoyable, or want you to run a lot in as well. So as I said, I've not run in a Puma stability shoe before. I think the Magnify Nitro is it's kind of max cushion shoe. The Velocity Nitro, I think there's stability elements, but that is kind of a cushion kind of daily trainer, so very different things. But I think there's elements of those shoes here in the ForeverRun Nitro, and yeah, I think so far I've been pleasantly surprised. I wasn't expecting to love it. I don't love the look of it, if I'm being honest, but in terms of my first run in it, as I said, pretty easy going in it, which I think is the type of runs it's designed for. It's been pretty good so far, and looking forward to spending a bit more time in it and seeing how it can cope with a greater variety of runs, and whether it can excel and be a stability shoe that can offer versatility and maybe offer some appeal to other people who don't necessarily need a stability shoe, but also want something that can offer a bit more of an up-tempo ride, and give you that protection and a really strong outsole as well too.
So I think the ForeverRun is another solid shoe that Puma's added to its training range. It's reasonably pricey shoe, but if you look at the price of things like max cushion shoes or stability shoes like this, something like the Saucony Tempus, it comes in a little bit under those shoes, so you're getting a little bit of value there, and it is, you know, a really well cushioned shoe with a good outsole and that extra support that I think is going to work for lots of people. Can't really see anyone hating the ride of the shoe for the easy runs. Like, I think it's just going to do a good job of providing support and cushioning, especially for your easy runs, and hopefully it'll have a little bit of versatility there. We'll try pushing it at some faster paces. We'll do more testing on that front for the full review. As always, the Puma Grip outsole is a great addition to any shoe. That does mean it's that bit more versatile in terms of the terrain you can tackle. Do have a bit more exposed foam here than other Puma shoes, but it's not really in a high impact area, so I wouldn't expect substantial degradation if you take it on some rough trails. You might get some stones stuck in these little holes, but that didn't happen to me on my first run. So yeah, I think it's going to be a pretty solid shoe. Like, there's nothing too standout exceptional about it, but the stability there is welcome, and it does feel like it should be fairly versatile. Early impressions, I think I had probably a stronger and more encouraging first impression of the Saucony Tempus, a shoe I really liked. I think that's got a slightly more lively, bouncy ride from the foams in the midsole, which is a kind of similar frame and softer core setup, but we'll do more on that comparison in the full review, of course. So far, I've enjoyed the ForeverRun Nitro. I think it achieves the job it sets out to do very well as a stable shoe with a lot of cushioning that provides support, protection, that you can really roll through any run in quite comfortably. It's just whether you feel like you need this kind of shoe in your lineup. It's really going to determine how much value the shoe is to you, I think. So that's our first round review of the Puma ForeverRun Nitro. Let us know what you think in the comments below. Please do like and subscribe, ring the little bell so you get notified when we do another video, including the full review of this shoe, and we will see you next time.